These are the Anarchy breakdowns. Biopic Scene 1. The screenplay is called The Prince of Sailortown, and it's a true story inspired by Alexander Robinson, a young Belfast boxer and runaway criminal who escapes to Chicago in the 1920s and ends up running a bootleg operation for Al Capone. Let's have a look.
I deliver. What now?
Why anyone would willingly scar themselves is beyond me.
Just history. That's all.
It's not professional.
Neither is a garden party packed with the establishment.
An Irishman with an attitude, huh? That's new.
Better than an Italian with illusions of grandeur.
I don't know you, but I know your work. They have told me great things, but what am I supposed to do with that?
Use me. Like you use everyone else. Either way, I don't care.
He's playing a very youthful, brash, cocky person who's
Good man.
at least trying not to feel afraid. There's beautiful work there with the toothpick, which will come in later, as you'll see. I needed that confidence in the character.
I deliver. What now?
Very succinct dialogue. It had to be delivered like directly.
Why
So-
anyone would willingly scar themselves is beyond
Do
me.
you see he's, the way he uses the cup there? He's pretending that he's
history.
sophisticated, right?
That's all.
It's not professional.
Capone's
Neither
berating
is a
him on
garden
his
party
choices.
packed with
in
the
life.
establishment.
An Irishman with an attitude, huh? That's new.
Better than an Italian with illusions of grandeur.
You see, Joseph can't quite look at him, right? Because of that youthful nature of the character. He thinks he's tough, but he's not really as tough
I
as
don't
he
know
thinks he
you,
is.
but I know your work.
Hmm.
They have told me great things, but what am I supposed to do with that?
Beautiful silence right here. You can see him thinking. He takes the
Excuse me.
toothpick out.
Like you use everyone else.
Perfect movement, perfect turn to Capone.
Either way, I don't care.
Now that is perfect. That's using a prop for good, right? The timing of the look, the stand, the toothpick, the line, the drop, the walk away. That's excellent. Now there's a lot going on in this scene. How it's written more or less juxtaposes what I need from the characters and the tone of the scene, because the opening of the scene is exterior, Capone's house. It's a beautiful day, it's a garden party, it's a soiree, there are children around, it's joyful, it's packed, everyone's having a good time. And then this young man turns up to ruin the party. For some reason as a writer, I love that kind of juxtaposition in anything. That mixture of joy and fun, with that underlying tension there, of something that could go wrong. And throughout the scene, there's always that threat that Capone could do something really, really awful. But what I needed from the actor playing Alexander is to maintain that youthful swagger, that youthful arrogance. There was always that danger with Capone that he will lose it. It's the first time they've met, and Alexander is not really making a very good impression. Hence the comments about the tattoos, because Alexander, the real person, was covered in tattoos, and at that time it was more or less frowned upon, at least in public, right? We're talking about the 1920s here. In private, a lot of people had tattoos, but that's another story, that's another script. Capone is constantly testing him in the scene, constantly berating him. We needed to remember as the actor that Alexander is a kid, really, and he's out of his depth. He comes from Belfast. This is Chicago. It's very different. If you come from Belfast, you know. It's very similar and it's very different. And he's really a fish out of water. To compensate for the fact of how he feels, because I'm sure he's anxious, he has that cocky swagger, don't give a damn, because he believes that is what will get him far in this life. And he certainly believes that this attitude will get him really far with Capone. But Capone lets him know different. Capone lets him know where his standing is in this group. Capone's a father figure, and Alexander is the wayward son. And that's what I wanted to set up in the scene. And that's what I needed these two actors to give me. Joseph playing Alexander and Vincent playing Capone. Joseph is definitely the right age to play Alexander. Vincent's definitely the wrong age to play Capone. He was right for it in the studio because he brought a certain gravitas and a certain realization. This is my town, this is my place, this is my power. Both of them connected really, really well on this. And Joseph played what I needed. He played that vulnerability, he played that immaturity, he played that toughness. Because the character is tough, but he's not as tough as the Chicago boys. Just because Capone is laying down the law here, it doesn't stop Alexander saying his piece. Alexander talks about a room full of government officials, a room full of cops, a room full of very important public figures, and they're all here in broad daylight in Capone's back garden. Now that says a lot about the story, that says a lot about Capone, but it also says a lot about Alexander and what he's willing to do to get on in this life. And I needed the actor to bring all of that into that one scene. The stage directions and the action are probably more important than the dialogue I've written, because it's there where you'll find those little gems. It's there that you will find the real through line of the story. In that moment for this scene in an audition room or even on set, I need the actors to bring me the feeling of the garden party, the lightness of touch, the tension, the underlying story, and the connection between Alexander and Capone. Now this is a perfect audition scene because I will really get to know who will be my best Alexander and who would be my best Capone. Now the conversation between both of them is sharp and it's dangerous. And it's really, really hard because it can't be played on one level. When I say play it sharp or play it dangerous, it's like, okay, I'm going to play it really dramatic. And we're going to deliver our lines like this. I mean, that underlying sharpness, that underlying danger, it's a lot more interesting to me. Particularly for the scene and the tone I've written it in. So what I mean by that sharpness and the danger, instead of raising my voice like this and being very, very specific about what I'm doing, I'm just going to be down here. So if I'm playing Alexander, I'm imagining there's a garden party still happening. There's kids around playing. I'm trying to both be respectful and show Capone that I am tough and I'm not to be messed with. So instead of raising my voice, I'm going to look him in the eye. I'm going to be very definitive about where my eye line is, which is what Joseph was doing, right? If I'm looking ahead, I'm looking ahead. If I'm looking at Capone, I'm looking at Capone. If I'm looking up at the sky, thinking, I'm looking up at the sky. And my tone is right here. And it's sharp. And it's dangerous. And that's what I needed. And that's what they both brought. The use of props in an audition room. A lot of people don't like it, but for me as a director, if I'm looking at tapes or I'm in the room with an actor, even if I ask someone to do the scene again and say, please can you just drop the props, that will stay with me. I will appreciate someone thinking about the character and actually respecting the character and the script enough. They had espresso cups. If you have them in the room, use them. And they were used sparingly. They were part of the character and the scene. They didn't feel that they were just added on. And with Joseph, what I really, really liked was that toothpick. And if he brought that into an audition and used it, I would have loved that. Now I know there are people who don't like props in audition rooms and I understand it. But I know for me, as a director, I like to know that the actor respects the process enough to even think about little extras like that. Joseph used that toothpick sparingly. He used it to drive the scene forward for real. He had it in his mouth at the beginning, took it out to talk, put it back in. Throughout the whole scene it was there and it wasn't distracting. And he made sure he used it at the end to make a point, to end the scene and to make a point with Capone. Now that's a very smart actor and that's an actor that I love to work with. So that's a little tip. If you're going to use props in an audition room, make sure you use them sparingly and that they add and enhance the scene. And even if the director, like me, says, oh, can you please drop this prop for the next take? Don't get disconcerted about it, because actually I will remember someone who thought about the part. I think most filmmakers will think that way. This has been the Anarchy Breakdown. Until the next time, no justice, no peace.